Getting proper mental health care can help you feel more like you. That's why Cerebral offers convenient access to online mental health services, including therapy and medication management. Cerebral's diverse clinician team can help with anxiety, insomnia, relationship issues, workplace stress, and more. You can schedule and communicate with your care team through Cerebral's mobile app and attend your sessions from the comfort of your own home. Get started with or without insurance. Plus, you can use your FSA or HSA. Start your first month for 50% off at Cerebral.com/ACAST.
Hello, it's Dave here. I'm with my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
And we are out walking with our son, Oscar. And it's a beautiful sunny day, a perfect day to head in early and watch Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
And the reason we're watching Batman v Superman is we actually wanted to go and see Justice League and do a review.
Well, hang on. I wanted to go see it. It's
we
probably
thought,
a bit of a stretch.
As in we wanted to do it for the podcast because we thought it's a movie that's getting a lot of talk about it.
Yeah.
And then logistically, there was one parent and baby screening of it that we couldn't get to, and that's the end of it. We have no babysitters. So.
Yeah, it's just our schedule just wasn't working out.
No.
And
then, to be honest, everyone's saying it's shit anyway, so
yeah.
I don't know.
I think we dodged a bullet.
We dodged a bullet, and then I thought it would be funny to do just like a splash Twitter poll and say, should we watch Batman v Superman or not? And because we only put it up for a few hours, I kind of thought no one would vote on it. And
we had more than 100 votes on
that.
that.
And I texted my family and everything, telling them to vote for us not to watch it.
You tried so hard to sway the vote.
I tried to sway the vote.
You tried to rig it.
Yeah.
And it did not work because
work.
we literally asked the question, because Cathy hasn't seen Batman v Superman, and we asked our Twitter followers, do you want her to suffer or no, poor Cathy? Those were the options. And 58% of people want Cathy to suffer.
Yeah. Though I'm really pleased the 42% actually, albeit myself and my family were some of them. And you voted no too. Actually, neither of us wanted to watch it.
No, of course I voted no. I don't want to watch this movie.
Anyway, we're going to watch it. Dave's seen it before. I haven't. Now, I just don't think it's going to be as bad as everyone made out because the reviews
lower your expectations.
Oh, my expectations aren't high, but the reviews were so bad that I think it's probably better that I go in thinking... What was it on Rotten Tomatoes? Like nothing, right?
20-something maybe? 40?
And everyone slated it so much. So at least I'm going in with bottom
good cause,
level expectation, yeah.
Yeah, so what do you know about this movie besides the reviews?
I mean, I feel like I know a lot about it because at the time I was kind of binging on the reviews because I was really enjoying them. I like listening to reviews where things are just being ripped apart, which I know is terrible. And also, like, the thing about Batman v Superman for me is we've seen a lot of Marvel movies, however many there are. There was 19 of them.
Yes, you famously say that you're never going to go to.
Yeah, I don't really like them. But part of that is I have no investment beyond Spider-Man. I had never heard of any single of them. I'd never heard of the Marvel characters before these movies. Whereas obviously Batman and Superman I know, particularly when I was younger, Lois and Clark was like my favourite TV show. I loved that show. Obviously, there's been 100.
Dean Cain.
Yeah, loved Dean Cain. I loved Terry Hatcher. Wanted to be her,
yeah.
and
I fancied her a lot.
She was amazing. And obviously there's like Batman movies going back to the 80s that I would have watched as a kid. I used to watch the cartoons
Adam
of
West.
them. I was never that into the Adam West, but I loved the Michael Keaton movies. I even like the George Clooney movie because I was going through an Alicia Silverstone phase after Clueless, so I
think it's
watched
safe,
anything she was in.
It's safe to say Batman and Superman are the two most famous superheroes.
Yeah,
in the world.
just know them and I'm invested in them. So actually, to go and watch a movie with the two of them, I'm not, I don't mind.
Yeah, on paper it sounds great.
Then there is Man of Steel, however, which we were so excited about Man of Steel when we went to see it.
Yeah, the trailer
was amazing.
Excellent.
And the start of Man of Steel, I remember turning to you and being like, this is so good. Like all the early stuff. When you
really liked the stuff on Krypton.
I really liked the
Russell
Krypton
Crowe.
stuff. I really liked kind of him as a teenager. And then suddenly the whole movie fell apart and was outrageously bad and like miserable. And he was like blowing up a city and all that kind of stuff. So overall, I wasn't a fan of the movie, and but the trailer was really good.
So you didn't like the fact that Man of Steel was miserable?
I found it all really. I found it very destructive and also depressing.
Right, you're in for a treat then with Batman v Superman.
And I didn't enjoy
because they doubled down on all of that.
I'm a big Amy Adams fan. Did not enjoy her as Lois Lane, at all. I don't know why she was in that movie. So yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, from my point of view, I saw this. Look, it is a bad movie. It's a complete incoherent mess.
Our friend Nick, who was on our Geostorm episode, told Dave that it's better on second viewing.
Yeah, he did. So I'm slightly optimistic. I mean, I'll be looking at it with a. I mean, when I know what to expect, so I'm going to be looking for things to like. There are a few things I like in it, which I'll talk about later, but I'm doubtful that this is going to change my mind.
I'm also excited to see Ben Affleck as Batman, and I really like, my favourite internet thing of all time is when him and Henry Cavill are doing their interview and they zoom in on Ben Affleck and they play Simon and Garfunkel. Like, that's the best.
That's really funny.
And I think
that was better than the movie.
Henry Cavill's really good casting for Superman, so yeah, bit of optimism all around. And I heard that Wonder Woman is in it, and I really like her. So
alright, well, don't get your hopes up.
So I think my hopes are too high.
All right, let's head in and watch this thing.
Okay.
We'll see you guys very shortly.
Bye.
Bye. Very shortly. That was optimistic. It's like 4 hours long.
You know the oldest lie in America, Senator? That power can be innocent.
You're gonna go to war. That son of a bitch brought the war to us. You know you can't win this. It's suicide.
The greatest gladiator match in the history of the world. Son of Krypton versus Bat of Gotham.
You're psychotic. That is a 3-syllable word for any thought too big for little minds.
All right, so it took us about 4 sittings.
Yeah.
But we finally got through.
We've done it.
Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Oh, I didn't know it was called that.
There you go.
I thought it was just called Batman versus Superman.
So Cathy, what did you enjoy that?
So I was thinking, it can't be as bad as everyone says, and I was mildly interested in it. It's actually worse than everyone says. And
it's a bad movie.
It's really bad, and it got to a point last night where I haven't been drinking a lot lately, with the whole being pregnant thing. So last night when we were watching it, I had a glass and a half of wine, and I was like, I'm really drunk because I can't follow this movie. And then I realised I wasn't drunk.
No, it's the movie's
It was
fault.
the movie.
The movie is drunk.
It tricked me into thinking I was drunk. And then I kept trying to ask Dave questions so that he could clarify to me what was happening. And he's like, no, you need to watch it as a movie and see if you can understand it without asking questions. And I was like, I can't.
But also, the answer to most of your questions were, there is no answer.
There's no answer.
The movie has not supplied you with the answers.
I kept thinking I've missed something. And then, so we watched it for about an hour and a half last night maybe. And then third sitting today, we've just finished it. Now, at best, I would say it's a movie to pass the time if you're feeding a baby, because that can be a bit boring.
No.
And I have 2 other points that I've said are good about it.
Also, you would recommend that some poor mother.
No, I'm saying at best it passes the time. So there's 2 points of it that were decent.
I found it excruciating. I found the time just I resent the time that 58% of our followers have robbed from us.
Yes. So my 2 points of it being good are, A, I liked that they addressed the devastation of the first movie, Man of Steel.
Because that's what I wrote down.
That really annoyed me, how much Superman trashed the city in that movie. Now, I don't know if they had always planned on that being addressed, or is it because all the fans complained about Superman's actions and that Superman would never do that?
No, well, let me tell you very quickly. I think that's partly the problem with this whole franchise of movies, in that Warner Brothers have no confidence in any of their products. They hadn't had a proper plan from the off. Everything is rushed and steamrolled. They made like a slate of movies. We're going to make movies for the next 20 years. Here's all the dates. And they've literally been reacting movie to movie to everything that the critics and the fans have seen.
How do you know that, though?
Because it's clear. It's shoehorned into this movie. Man of Steel, everyone complained about the destruction and the level of carnage, and that didn't feel right for superheroes. Then there's a throwaway line in this movie. Incidentally, spoiler alert for Batman v Superman. And I presume if you're listening to this, you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, don't watch the movie, but keep listening to us trash it.
We're on spoiler sofa.
We're going to spoil it. There's an incidental line in this movie where Batman and Superman go to fight.
Doomsday on some island. He comes back in from orbit, the Doomsday thing, and then one of the people in the command room, the military command room, says, "Oh, they've landed on Stryker's Island," and then somebody else says, "Oh, thank God, it's uninhabited."
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Like, they had to address the fact that there will be no civilians harmed in the making of this movie. And they've done the same thing with, everybody said about this movie, it's so humorless and so serious, it needed some levity. So Justice League, apparently they got Joss Whedon in for various reasons, but apparently they've tried to inject it forcibly with comedy. So they've just knee-jerk reactions to
they've no vision.
Everything. There's no
vision. Because if they're going to go fully dark, just go for it, like Christopher Nolan did.
But also, that's not art. That's not how good art is created.
Dave, I don't think art is coming into
products.
I don't think art is in the equation whatsoever.
No, but that's my point. That's the problem with the movie industry, and I'm getting on my high horse here.
You are getting on your high horse.
But Disney are doing the same thing with Star Wars. It's just listening to it's what do the audience want? It's
but Hollywood's always done that. That's why there's test screenings of movies before they're released.
Well, maybe I'm sick of Hollywood.
You are, and then maybe you shouldn't be doing a movie podcast. And my second point of something favourable in the movie, at one point there was a montage of Superman rescuing people and kind of showing the adoration of the people for him, and I made a note in my drunken haze last night that was visually interesting.
That's the best you
one
have to say
scene
about it.
and I was really pleased with myself, right? Because when we go to the cinema we never take notes, and I was like, we're at home now, I'm going to take notes, I'm going to make an effort. And then when I was reading over my notes, they don't make any sense, but it's because the movie doesn't make any sense.
What did you write? Are these just drunken rambling?
No, they weren't, because I wasn't even like, this is literally me trying to make sense. So the timeline, what is this? So this is my criticism now. I'm going to get to the criticism of the movie. Is this set over days? It feels like it's set over maybe 2 days.
I don't know.
Like, I was like, this is all happening so quickly. There's no build up.
The answer to I wish you could all have been here to hear Cathy throughout this whole movie, because you just asked question after question after question, and the answer to everyone was, I don't know. Like, why is Batman... My favourite one, I actually live tweeted some of your quotes from this, so go to our Twitter at the Cinemile to read some of Cathy's out of context questions. My favourite one was, why is Batman wearing a jacket?
Yeah, I was so confused by that scene. But like, scene to scene, like, first of all, I felt like I was watching 2 different movies. I felt like I was watching... No, actually, by the end 3 movies, but for most of it I felt like I was watching a Batman movie. I was watching a kind of hokey Superman Lois Lane movie, and then by the end I was watching some strange CG villain that came out of nowhere, and I genuinely didn't know why he was there. So I felt like I was then in the middle of a 3rd movie.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on there.
But why was... So this is from the very start. Why would you decide as a filmmaker, like, why did Zack Snyder say, oh, everyone needs to see Batman's parents being killed? Like,
yes,
are you joking
exactly.
me? I've seen that 1,000 times. And I was so confused by the opening sequence. Like, so from the beginning I was confused, and this was before the wine. Batman, his parents being killed, right, and he's a kid. And then I was like, but why is Batman falling down like a gutter? Why is he falling down a hole? Where did the hole come from? And you did take the time to explain to me that they were actually 2 different scenes that had been merged together.
Yeah, it's a flashback within a flashback.
So I was like...
I mean, that's how this movie starts.
So I thought they were changing the plot a bit, in that when his parents were shot, he subsequently, at the same moment, fell down a gutter, and I was really confused. Now, I admired Zack Snyder, or whoever was doing this part of it, where they were trying to be arty. That was a bit slow-mo. The parents are being killed. There was like a necklace being broken. But then if you're going to be visually trying to be interesting like that, and then that one Superman montage, but then the rest of your movie is so visually cheap and shit looking, it's like, why?
It all looks like it's
so
just
jarring.
filmed on a green screen.
It's just jarring. It's almost like a couple of different filmmakers made it.
But you know why? Zack Snyder just wanted to do that scene, because he's done it like there's some famous Batman comic I read that is like, which he's basically aping.
Okay,
that.
right.
There's
I mean, I've seen it before.
So you've got Frank Miller's The Dark Knight, which is a very famous Batman comic, which he's aped loads of shots in that. Basically, he went through... He seems like he's super into Batman and not into Superman.
So he's taking stills from a comic, reenacting them live.
Yeah.
But then...
So that Pearl thing was from, I think, year 1.
But then the rest of the movie isn't done in that style. So that's why it's so jarring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right, we didn't need to see it. Also,
didn't.
It's like the movie starts with 2 different memories being shown to us at the same time in a dream. So it's 2 flashbacks within a dream.
I made a note about some crap Lois Lane scene. I don't remember what that was now, albeit I would stand again and say Amy Adams is shocking in these movies, and I'm embarrassed for her that she's in them.
And she's a great actress.
She was rescued 3 times by Superman.
In
She was rescued 3 times by Superman.
That's her only role in these movies.
That's her plot. Like, that's embarrassing, given I think it took place over a maximum of 3-4 days.
Oh no, wait. Her other role is to spend 90% of the movie trying to investigate the origins of a bullet that nobody gives a shit about, because we all know it's Lex Luthor the whole time.
And answer questions about her boyfriend to her boss.
And let's talk about Lex Luthor in a minute. Because,
oh my god.
Dear God.
Other notes, the desert scene, I have no idea where that scene came from. Then there was some sort of memory within it of, like, it was either Robin or the Flash. I didn't understand what that was. Jeremy Irons, why is he in this movie?
Sorry, just to be clear to everyone, Cathy's referring to the scene where Batman has a dream of some apocalyptic world, and then Superman is like some sort of ruler or something, and then the Flash. So you have to read. This is the problem with this movie. It doesn't supply you with any of the information.
So was that the Flash that was talking to him?
That was the Flash.
Oh, I thought it was Robin.
No,
but then he moved quickly, so I thought it could have been the Flash.
Flash. People are speculating that the Flash can go so fast that he can time travel or something.
Oh, okay.
So he's coming to.
But none
Bruce
of that's explained to you.
With a warning, but it's within a dream. So explain that to me. Explain that to me, movie. Nothing makes sense. And also, you can't show us a movie with these random scenes in the middle that have nothing to do with anything and are just setting up future movies, because that's not how movies work. And fine if you want to have, set up your cinematic universe and blah blah blah. And we've seen Marvel do this time and time again. But they stuck all their fucking teasers in after the credits, and people can stay back and watch them if they want, and the rest of the movie works as a movie. Don't put your fucking Justice League clicking through folders and watching videos scene into your movie, because fuck you. I'm so angry.
Dave, you're getting way too angry. Excuse me. I have another
it's
note.
so frustrating, because this is not a movie. It's just an incoherent.
It's really incoherent
series of scenes.
But that's what my other note was. I think there must have been a point in time when there was a linear script that made sense for this movie, and through very strange editing, it was all falling apart, because it leaps from scene to scene with no narrative link whatsoever. And then Jesse Eisenberg is just suddenly there, suddenly being a baddie, playing Lex Luthor. And if this is supposed to be kind of an origin movie in the sense of we're being retold Batman's story and Lex Luthor's a new character.
This isn't an origin story.
No, I mean, you're supposed to be able to watch this movie not knowing who Lex Luthor is, right? He's a new character in this universe. But Lex Luthor's given no introduction. He's just this freak who's basically playing Mark Zuckerberg from The Social Network.
Yeah.
But with a really bad wig. And he's just suddenly evil, and he's trying to pit Batman and Superman against each other and orchestrating some sort of like CG monster from space.
Can you try to explain to me his plan or motivations in this whole movie?
No, because I couldn't understand it.
No, he wants Batman and Superman to fight, and then he wants to make a monster. Profit. I don't know.
And he's like 25. Like, how is he so profitable?
Understand any of it.
And also, I had read before, which made me laugh so much, that everyone was saying that Jesse Eisenberg had like the Rachel haircut. Now, he did not have the Rachel, because the Rachel's a nice haircut. I don't know what he was wearing.
He is absolutely the worst thing in this movie. Every
like,
time he's on screen,
so embarrassed for Jesse Eisenberg.
I'm really embarrassed for him, and he's a good actor. I thought he was good in The Social Network, and I've seen him in roles. I think he's a fine actor. But he made some choices in this movie, and they were wrong.
But do you think that was how he was directed?
I don't know.
He probably thought he was going to have quite a big role in this movie, but when you boil down his scenes, he's probably barely in it for 10 minutes.
I thought it was embarrassing.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. But it's not his fault either, because...
It is his fault.
He probably had a bigger plot and more going on, and like maybe we saw his character before he became like that, and then it was all cut, because I've no sense that... Like, I don't think a character's ever just delivered that creepy. Like, usually you see something leading up to it. Like, at one point he puts a sweet into somebody else's mouth, which is just disgusting. Now we need to talk about...
It's so over the top.
Wonder
it's
Woman.
Almost as bad as Jared Leto's Joker. It's that kind of
I'd
leap.
say it's worse.
Like trying to be over the top, like quirky and crazy, like a ring ding ding ding, the bell is rung, Batman.
Yeah. But Wonder Woman, then, it was an interesting... Now, obviously, I've seen the Wonder Woman movie before I've seen this, so I'm coming at her from a different angle. But in her movie, right, she becomes a superhero in World War One.
Yeah.
So how come in this movie no one's heard of her 100 years later? Is Wonder Woman not been a superhero for 100 years?
No, she says in this movie that 100 years ago I walked away from humanity, which actually explains why she wasn't in World War II, I guess.
But it doesn't make sense. She says she walked away from humanity. No, she didn't. She didn't go back to the island where she came from.
But hang on,
She's just swanning around in lovely clothes, like being rich and fabulous.
Yeah, that's the life.
Now, what was very interesting about this, because obviously Wonder Woman is directed by a woman, Patty Jenkins, and this was directed by Zack Snyder. The camera gaze was way more lecherous on Wonder Woman in this movie.
Oh, interesting.
Consistently lecherous.
Yeah.
And Ben Affleck was lecherous.
Wearing skimpy outfits.
Wearing skimpy outfits. She was wearing skimpy outfits in Wonder Woman, but the camera wasn't lingering on at that. And Ben Affleck was like really lecherous to her in this movie.
He was creepy.
Yeah, really creepy.
And I think actually in the context of all the 2017 sex scandals, he felt like he was Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, he's disgusting, because he'd even said like, "Oh, I'm older than my dad ever was." Like, he's supposed to be old. And then another thing on Ben Affleck, it's interesting, you told me you thought he was a really good Batman. I thought he was just plank of wood, absolute plank of wood.
No, I think he brought something to... I think he was a really good Bruce Wayne, and a Bruce Wayne in his latter years, who's just really downtrodden, and like I thought he was really good.
But we'd know again, and this isn't Ben Affleck's
He's just
fault,
in a bad movie.
We had no scenes with him.
Like,
he was probably only in the movie for 10 to 15 minutes, not even as Bruce Wayne. So when he's in the bat mask and all that, you don't get anything out of that, right?
Well, that's the problem. You've got a 2.5 hour movie, which is way too long, that doesn't give anyone enough breathing room.
No.
Because there's too many characters. You've got Batman, Superman, Lois Lane, Alfred, Lex Luthor, Wonder Woman. Way too many. There's too much. There's both simultaneously too much plot and not enough plot, because none of it makes sense.
Yeah, none of it's actually doing anything. And like, we got a brief... I mean, I enjoyed Jeremy Irons and Ben Affleck like on screen together, but they didn't do anything with that dynamic. Then we briefly see Ben Affleck in his amazing like shag pad, and there's just a naked woman in bed next to him, and that's it. And I'm like, so basically this woman's just an accessory to show us, along with his fancy car and all the rest of it. Oh, this is just a status symbol for him of having a naked woman in his bed who presumably is like 30 years younger than him. So I wasn't into it at all, that depiction of him.
Well,
I thought it was
possibly
disgusting.
you could read that as that's Bruce Wayne keeping up with the appearance of the Bruce Wayne billionaire playboy, because there is that great scene in the Christopher Nolan Batman, I think The Dark Knight, where he has to show up to a party drunk with loads of women in a Lamborghini just to
yeah,
sort
but
of
he was in his bedroom in this bit. It's interesting as well, because I'm not actually a fan of and I know people love them, but I'm not a particular fan of the Christopher Nolan ones. But I mean, there's absolutely no comparison between this and the Christopher Nolan one's like a work of art.
Yeah,
compared to this.
They're complete movies that make sense.
And even the George Clooney one I mentioned, like if you put the George Clooney one or the Val Kilmer one up against this, like they're still really good. Like this, they've actually ruined Batman with this, I think, because he's neither here nor there. He's not a proper hero. He's not an interesting man. He's a bit lechy. He at one point out of nowhere has this like training montage. I was like, I don't understand what he's training for.
Ridiculous.
And then why did
he's training to kill Superman?
But why? This is
this is
the core question of my review. Why are Batman and Superman trying to kill each other?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And secondly, if it's called Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and we're like teed up for a fight between Batman and Superman, they only fight for about 5 minutes. And then they resolve it, and then suddenly this new baddie was introduced, this stupid like crappy CG monster, and then they're fighting that, and then Wonder Woman just shows up, and I was like, I don't understand why this movie is called Batman v Superman. Which also, the climax of the movie isn't Batman fighting Superman.
Exactly, and you know what? The marketing of this movie was atrocious, because the trailer gave you that moment.
Yeah, so I never watched the trailer.
In a movie called Batman v Superman, who's going to win? The trailer shows you that they're friends at the end.
That's so
it's
bad.
Entirely pointless. What's the point of that fight?
There's no point.
Also, you're completely right. What are their motivations for fighting? I would say Bruce Wayne probably has a more legitimate argument, because I thought that first scene sets up his motivation really well. He was at the heart of that whole Metropolis disaster, and he saw the destruction firsthand. And
hilariously, he rescued a beautiful little girl, and then as the devastation was happening around them, him and the little girl just like hugged each other. I was like, now really, that little girl would probably be crying for her parents or running around or whatever.
Fine.
But no, she just hugs him in this beautiful moment while like the city falls around them.
That's cliche. It was cliche, but I actually think that scene quite worked.
Yeah,
for me,
that worked for me
that
too.
Was really well done.
I mean, if you just watch the first 10 minutes of this movie, okay, you'd be like, boring. I'm seeing Batman's parents being killed. But you'd think, oh, this is okay.
Yeah,
like at the
some
start,
good
I
setup
genuinely said to you, this isn't as bad as what everyone says, and by the fourth viewing, I was like, can we just not finish the movie? But
okay.
a Twitter poll is a sacred thing. We may walk out of movies in the cinema,
we would never let
we would
you down,
never let a
people.
Twitter poll down.
But okay, so I think Batman's motivation for wanting Superman dead, fine. I kind of get that. Why does Superman, like, they just established that Clark Kent doesn't like vigilante, doesn't like what Batman's doing. That's it. That's not enough. That's not enough to work with. It's not enough for a feud. And crucially, just before they fight, we get that pivotal scene on the helipad where Lex Luthor reveals his ridiculous, incomprehensible plot the whole time. Gods and humans will fight. The big Titan battle is about to happen. Fucking Gotham versus Kryptonian. It's like, I've set this
gibberish.
all up. Everything that has happened to this point has been because I want you two to fight. Why? Also, how could you have predicted that? And he reveals that he manipulated Bruce Wayne to want to fight Superman by what? Sending him some checks from the guy back with some writing on them? It's like, what are you even talking about, man? It doesn't make any sense. And also, his
Can I just say, Dave looks really upset right now. You need to get over it.
So I just feel like we've wasted, because this feels like we've been watching this all weekend, and it's my second time, and it just makes me angry. Like, he's kidnapped his mother, and he says, "You have to go fight Batman, or I'm going to kill your mother," right? And then Superman.
But also they didn't explain, right? Both of their identities were unmasked in this movie, which never happens. So Lex Luthor just seems to know that Superman is Clark Kent and gets his mother. And then when they are just about to fight, Superman says to Batman, Bruce.
Yeah, he knows he's Bruce Wayne.
I'm like, wait,
I don't know.
You've unmasked.
I think we missed that
the
bit.
biggest mystery of, unless maybe we missed it, but that's a pretty big deal to just throw around the word Bruce in that scene.
But crucially, right, just before they go fight, he has a scene with Lois Lane, and he says, I have to go, my mother's in trouble. I'm going to have to convince Batman to help me, or I'm going to have to kill him. So those are his two options, okay? Now, option A is pretty fucking easy.
Yeah.
Because all you have to say is, Lex Luthor kidnapped my mother, named Martha, by the way. I don't know if that means anything to you. And I need your help, because I have a mother and I'm I'm a cool guy. Do you mind helping me out? Because he actually set up this whole thing and was sending you like checks, whatever. That's one sentence. But no, classic movie style. He just talks in fucking riddles, like things like, we can't do this. There's not enough time. And then just continues to punch him. Just like, no, use your words. And he just pounds him into oblivion for no reason.
Their fight was so dull as well, wasn't it?
Doesn't make sense.
Their actual physical fight was really dull.
The fight was really dull. It's like do you know what? It's like a wrestling match. It's like literally like a bad staged wrestling match. Like at one point, Batman picks up a kitchen sink and hits him over the head with it. This is the world's greatest detective. There's some moments of flair with the kryptonite gas grenades, but there's no ingenuity in this fight. There's nothing of interest. Now, on Friday night, before we got into this whole horrible weekend of Batman v Superman, you and Oscar went to bed and I stayed up and I was just flicking through Sky and I ended up watching half an hour of Captain America Civil War, which came out the month after this. And I know you didn't like that movie, and if you haven't heard Cathy's thoughts, go back to episode 2.
Yeah, so basically we started our podcast right after Batman v Superman came out.
But I watched that because I just flicked it on that crucial airport fight scene, and I won't give any spoilers for that, but I've watched that several times and I love that movie. And that's how you do a fight scene. That movie had 10 different superheroes, each with their own unique power, fighting at the same time. And we've just described how this movie doesn't work with like 6 characters. That had 10 characters in one fight scene, and there are so many amazing little moments of ingenuity, like Spider-Man webbing Falcon's like arms together, and then Falcon like presses a button and his little remote comes out and like flies into Spider-Man, and Spider-Man like strings a web out and then gets carried away. There's the whole Ant-Man seen everyone who's fighting everyone else, their powers complement each other, and their powers are used to very clever and interesting effect. Batman
was
and
not the
Superman
case here. They're just
are
punching
just
each
punching
other,
each
yeah.
other. They're just punching each other for about 10 minutes, and it's not interesting. And also, it doesn't make sense. What Batman's clearly has set up this whole thing, because we see a scene of him sticking a kryptonite spear in the ground in a very particular place, like 10 buildings away, and then we see Superman like punch him a million miles away, and he somehow ends up at that exact spot.
Yeah, it makes
like it
no
was Batman's
sense.
plan all along.
But can I say that I think they would have been 2 better movies if they'd made instead of this one. So the first one would have been The People versus Superman, which is the most interesting plot in this movie. Why Holly Hunter was in this movie is absolutely beyond me.
So that she could look at a jar of piss.
Yeah,
or
but
something.
yeah, I know. Especially after seeing her in The Big Sick, which she was so good in. But anyway, the People versus Superman stuff was, to me, really, really interesting. Now, at most, again, I keep saying 10 minutes, but at most 10 minutes of this movie was taken up with that. Now, that's properly interesting, you know, debating his powers, whether they're used for good or evil, whether they should be constrained, etc., etc. The second movie they could have made was Batman versus Superman, because this movie is a Batman movie, a Superman movie, what's his face, Jesse Eisenberg in the middle, and then a CG monster, and then a bit of Wonder Woman. If this movie had legitimately from start to finish just been Batman versus Superman, and we're witnessing, if they had pared the whole thing back and we're properly following Clark as a journalist, which would be interesting, doing like real research on Batman and the devastation he's wreaking, like they kind of briefly kind of visually and verbally reference the fact that Batman's quite hardcore now, like he killed a couple of people, he's branding people in prisons, like that's really interesting. That was all gone then. If Superman had been legitimately investigating that and doing like a proper piece on it, and then likewise if Bruce had been legitimately as Bruce Wayne campaigning against Superman instead of just being Batman going, I'm going to smash Superman's head in, that would have been really interesting. And they did this funny thing where they pitted Metropolis and Gotham like across the water from each other, which I've never seen before. I don't know if they're normally that close to each other.
So.
But
well, I don't really know.
But
that
could have been interesting because Bruce Wayne's a very influential person in Gotham, and he could have used his influence in Metropolis, and it could have been like a really dynamic movie and really interesting if they'd actually made that movie without any physical fighting. Would have been really cool to me. Because when Bruce showed up and Batman showed up in his stupid like pimped up Batman suit, I was like, "But that's not Batman. That's just a Transformer. Like that's not a Batman movie to me." And like I've seen all the Batman movies, like to varying degrees of enjoying them, but this is just shit. And I know like that's not a very good criticism of something, but honestly, it's just really bad. So I would much
rather see the movie you're describing,
or Clark versus Bruce. That would have been so cool. We don't need to see Batman and Superman.
Yes, because there's a scene where they meet at a benefit ball.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's fun. No, that was interesting.
And then Lex Luthor ruined that scene by showing up and just being terrible in it. And then look, my last note on the movie, and we don't really need to carry on trashing this movie because enough people have done it. And I really tried to pick the good out of it. There's so many endings. It ended like 7 times. Yeah. I was like, okay, that's the end. Okay, that's the end. And Wonder Woman just shows up again. Blatantly, I know that Superman isn't dead because I've seen him in marketing for the new movie. So
what's the point?
And I'm pretty sure everyone would have guessed it.
Now, the Marvel movies have the same problem. Like, what's the point in death if everyone's going to come back from life?
But this is particularly lame. Like, he was having 2 simultaneous funerals at the same time, and we just guessed. And then when his mother came into the bedroom to Amy Adams, or aka Lois Lane, and said, "Clark had this delivered here for you." And I said to Dave, if this is an engagement ring, we're just turning it off. And then she opens it and it's an engagement ring. It's like, are you kidding me? Like why is Amy Adams... I was thinking, Amy Adams is either Oscar winner, definitely Oscar nominated, right?
Yeah.
Ben Affleck, multiple Oscar winner.
Yeah. There's good talent.
Holly Hunter, I'm sure, has won Oscars or been nominated. Like multiple... what's his face? Lex Luthor, as bad as I think he is, he was up for The Social Network. What are they doing in this movie? Now, I get the original script would have seemed a bit dark and a bit intriguing, but at this point, after this one, and then look, obviously I haven't seen the Justice League, but the panning that's getting, like, what is Ben Affleck doing? Like he's a fantastic director.
I think Ben Affleck wants out.
Why is he in these movies?
Like he was supposed to direct the Batman movie. He's not doing that anymore. I think
he needs to get behind the camera and get away from the camera.
He's trying to get out of this. You can tell.
It's
he's just
so
obviously
embarrassing.
contracted up to the hilt. Now we should address as well. A lot of people tweeted us saying that we should watch the extended edition because it's a lot better and it actually makes sense. Now, to those people, I think I addressed most of you on Twitter.
Well, thank you for tweeting us.
Thanks for tweeting us, but I said we are not doing that because A, it's longer. It's a half an hour longer. So no, I'm not enduring any more of this movie. And yeah, fine. That's great if it makes more sense and it actually is coherent. But that's not an excuse because your movie that you release theatrically, your finished product has to make sense.
Yeah, like I don't believe in director's cuts. I won't watch them. I'm like, what you're releasing in the cinema is the movie that you've made. That's the final product. Like I don't read a novel and then go back and read the unedited novel. That's like you don't do that in other medium. So why would you do that in film?
Well, look, I think there are fair cases where a director's cut is warranted because there's multiple moving parts in a movie and studios can interfere and that kind of thing. So, and I think a director's cut for a movie can be sort of an interesting little relic because you can get added context or things that you didn't know about a movie. But they don't exist, so you can go back and make a movie work.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you don't get a second chance here, Zack Snyder. I'm not going to go watch another 3 hours of your movie just so I can understand why Lex Luthor did all the mad things that he did, like framed Superman in the middle of Africa so that he could face a Senate hearing so that you could blow it all up with some piss.
Oh my god, we need to mention about that scene. One of the first few scenes of the movie when Lois Lane, for whatever reason, is somewhere investigating something. The baddie, the guy who's supposedly Russian and who keeps popping up, he's from Home and Away. Which I used to watch a lot of, the Aussie soap for anyone who doesn't know it. And I'm pretty sure, I need to look him up, he's the guy who stabbed Sally when she was stabbed. Do you remember that storyline?
No, and I don't think anyone cares about it.
Well, he's definitely roaming away. I'm looking
and I like
the
way you said it, like everyone knows. Oh God, he's the one who stabbed Sally.
Well, a lot of our listeners probably watch Home and Away if they've got taste.
Okay, please everybody tweet in.
Yeah.
And if you understood what Cathy's talking about, please tweet in.
But look, this is it. That's pretty much the end of my notes. Again, I've written Lois Lane was rescued 3 times and I've actually capitalised 3 times. Like, that's how pathetic Lois Lane is. Yeah. I'm sorry, but Terry Hatcher in Lois and Clark was better to my recollection, which I haven't seen in 20 years.
She was. Can I? There were a few other things that really annoyed me in this movie.
Okay, you've got one more minute.
Why. Okay, but like, there's a bit at the beginning, in that scene in Metropolis where it's all being destroyed, and you see Bruce Wayne, and he's like, oh my God, and he's driving through the.
Does he say, God help us all?
No, but there is a moment in this where the president. This what I'm about to say sums up this entire movie. This is a movie where the president of the United States says the line, "May God have mercy on us all," and it's not a joke.
And he's not even on screen; it's on the phone.
Because they couldn't. I don't know. That's what this movie is. No, there's a moment where Bruce is driving through Metropolis and he's trying to get to his building, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's smoke everywhere!" And then he gets on the phone to his I guess the CEO of his business in Wayne Tower in Metropolis,
Bruce Corp,
and he's looking out the window at this complete and utter destruction. Like buildings are collapsing, like Superman is flying Zod into other buildings, and it's like absolute mayhem. And he's looking out, and then Bruce says to him, "Jerry, you've got to get everyone out of the building right now." And then only at that time does he then turn to everybody else and says, "Okay, everybody, we've got to evacuate." Mr. Wayne says it's time to get out.
They have no fire warden training in this building. Like, we've all worked in offices. We know that there's somebody who wears a red hat who you follow.
Gone. Follow the high vest. I would be out of there. Like, they were just gawking out the window. Do you think they're
like, my God,
maybe may God have mercy on us all?
And he did. You forget that the guy, the CEO, then blessed himself and said a Hail Mary.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Bless him. Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe the extended 3-hour edition, there's like an extra half an hour, which is just before Metropolis. So we see Jerry, like the CEO, and he's like at his desk working, And then it all starts to kick off, and he goes over to the window, and he's like, "Oh my God, it's mayhem out there." And then somebody's
But I haven't heard from Bruce,
"Jerry,
so I'll just sit back.
we need to leave." And he's like, "No, we wait. We wait for the call.
We wait and we see.
This is Mr. Wayne's business. And it was his father's business. And I'll be damned if I'm leaving this building before he calls me from a jeep."
Okay. Yeah, I think that would have been the first half hour. Or maybe Lois Lane having any sort of plot
So
whatsoever.
that annoyed me.
Yeah.
Also, there's a line that Batman says, which was featured heavily in the trailer, where he goes, you know, he's trying to justify to Alfred why Superman needs to die. And he says, "If there is even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, then we have to treat that as an absolute certainty." Now, that line doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make a lick
And
of
why
sense.
is Jeremy Irons in this movie?
If there's statistically, if there's a 1% chance of something, then that means there is a 100% chance of it. That's kind of what he's saying.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
But it doesn't matter because their mothers are both called Martha. So
oh yeah, that's what we need. Okay, final thing to talk about. So I heard a lot about. Now, as I said, I actually had read a lot of reviews of this movie. I'd forgotten them all except for this Martha thing because everyone mentioned it. For anyone who doesn't know, it's that Superman and Batman become friends when they realise both of their moms are called Martha. Yeah. But the way everyone talked about this scene, people made it out like it was literally just, "Oh, your mom's called Martha too. Oh, let's be friends." Now, to be fair, it was done a bit better than that. But so it wasn't as bad as I was expecting.
Why did you say that name?
But what seems silly to me is if my mother's life was in danger, I would say, "They're going to kill my mom" to a stranger. I wouldn't say, "They're going to kill Linda." Now, obviously, listeners of our podcast know Linda very well because she's done lots of episodes. But most people wouldn't know what I was talking about. And I would just really want to be clear if I've got one line to say before someone murders me because he's about to spear him with kryptonite. I would be very explicit in saying my mother, not just Linda.
Yeah.
Or if I said Linda, I would just hope their mom was called Linda. So yeah, that scene made me laugh so much, and it also was always the problem with Superman, and why ultimately, like I said, I used to like Lois and Clark, and I've always enjoyed Superman movies and stuff like that. There's always an ultimate problem with the Superman anything is, oh well, if someone has kryptonite, it's his threat. If they don't have kryptonite, it's not a threat, right? Yeah. So he's got a spear made of kryptonite, whatever. He's like, that stuff's all quite dull as well. And then at the end, Superman like carries loads of kryptonite into space or whatever anyway, so he's able to touch it in this iteration of it. But yeah, the Martha scene, because it's been so lambasted, is because it's been everyone slagged off that Martha scene so much. Honestly, when I got to it, I didn't think it was that bad.
Oh, come on,
except for just what I said, like you would just say my mother, not Martha.
But actually,
and I love the way at the start of the movie, I think 4 times we either see Martha on her headstone or we've heard it verbally mentioned. Like they really, they were like, this is really important that this audience knows that his mom's called Martha.
Obviously, somebody in the writer's room like pegged this connection, and then they were like, "Oh my god, we should shoehorn that."
So is it a legitimate thing in the comics that their moms are the same name?
I guess. I don't know either. Somebody write in and tell us.
Yeah, but like we really need to wrap this up because we spent enough time now.
No, one more thing. Speaking of Martha Kent, there's another
as opposed to Martha Wayne. There's 2 of them.
Right.
So maybe she didn't take the father's name. Maybe that's not her name at all.
Oh, sorry, Martha Nee Higgins, now known as Martha Kent. She's a problem, I think, in this movie as well because she's a great actress. But they have what's supposed to be a very touching scene where Clark goes back and he asks his mother for advice because he's so troubled. And which is also cut way too short. Like all these,
I missed it. I literally blinked and I missed it.
You didn't even notice it, right? There you go.
I was on Twitter.
None of the scenes in this movie have breathing room because there's so many scenes. They're just like quick. Next scene. We've got to keep this thing moving.
Speaking of Home and Away, a soap opera has better character development.
I'm not finished.
Oh, right, sorry.
She says to Clark, she says, "You don't owe these people a goddamn thing. You don't." Basically, fuck humans. You don't have to do anything. Like that. Like this isn't Superman. That's not his character. And his dad's the same. His dad. This really bothered me about Man of Steel. The way his dad was like, "You need to stay hidden. Society is bad. Humans will treat you badly." To the point where like, "Don't come and rescue me." Slight spoilers for Man of Steel. Don't come and rescue me. Let me die rather than be exposed to humanity.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Well, because the Superman is supposed to be all about... He was supposed to be instilled with, like, the very best virtues of humanity. He's supposed to inspire
He may have been instilled with them, but his parents are protective of him. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm assuming that Oscar's going to live in like a big bubble, like that boy in a bubble. That's what I'm going to make him do. So he can just roll around life, never speaking to anyone.
Yeah, but if I was about to be swept away by a tornado and Oscar was a superhuman god from another planet, who all he would have to do is just go in and pick me up and take me away.
You're not as noble as Kevin Costner.
I probably wouldn't be like, oh, nope, stay there.
No, but their whole life was that they wanted Clark to have a normal life. So I think that's fair enough. We can agree to disagree on that point.
Okay.
And really, we've given this movie way more than it's worth. I have to say though, ultimately I've really enjoyed the experience of watching it, because it's just so outrageous, and actually trying to take notes on it and read them back coherently was kind of a fun task. Because it's just nonsensical. Like, the whole thing is just complete nonsense basically. And then at the very end, I'm like, well, I know Superman's alive, so I just keep waiting for him to come back from the dead. And then his coffin kind of slightly knocks, and that's the end of it. So I'm wondering now, in the next movie, in the Justice League, which we can review in like 3 months when it's out on VOD, is he a zombie? Or can people from Krypton like be in comas that make them appear dead? Like, what's the plot here?
I don't know. Everyone who's seen Justice League knows the answer to this question.
Or did they just not explain it and he's just back? And then also Wonder Woman, to me...
You almost sang the theme song.
Wonder Woman. It just made no sense to me that Wonder Woman is suddenly teamed up with him, because all she had was Bruce Wayne being a bit lecherous to her. She met Superman for all of 4 seconds, and then she goes back to his like home on the ranch, to his funeral that's not really attended by anyone. Like, why is Wonder Woman as a strong, interesting character as she was in her movie? Why is she back fighting this crap battle?
Because Bruce Wayne said... because Bruce Wayne had a dream / vision that the world was going to end or something, that the Flash kept to him. I don't understand.
Yeah, but it's because we need to make the Justice League.
Yeah.
Okay, but listen, we're going to finish up now. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to us on iTunes. We would very much appreciate a review. A 5-star rating would be lovely. And please follow us on Twitter, where clearly we take it very seriously what people say to us on Twitter. Instagram.
Twitter.
Dave likes doing fun Instagram stories on our Instagram, and we also have a Facebook, and they are all at the cinema.
I'm doing the next poll on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've about 100 followers on Instagram, so we won't get many people
yeah, but
responding.
maybe they'll be nicer to us and let us have our weekend back. No, seriously.
I mean, we're really the bigger fools for putting the poll up in the first place.
Yeah, it was our fault for putting the poll up.
Yeah.
But thank you to everyone who did vote in the poll. And I am only joking. We appreciate it.
And Dave, like, your face went really red when you were giving out about the movie there. Like,
I don't think I've ever been so animated. I don't know. It's just kept, because we watched it over 4 sittings. It just kept going. And I just wanted it to end.
By the end, now I really have to confess. By the very end, at the start, I was so attentive. I was taking notes, all the rest. But by the end, I was just like, "How many minutes are left? How many minutes are left? Why isn't it over? Why isn't it over?" But
right.
yeah.
Speaking of, this needs to
this
end.
ends. Okay.
This
Bye.
is we'll be doing an extended 4-hour version of this, by the way, which will be released afterwards, and it'll make a lot more sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
He's hungry. He's found us. And he's coming! Ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding.